Commissioner Williams.
I'm searching for your name. Because
Bob-
as long
Bob-
as you're sitting there,
Bob Hinton.
Bob, yes.
Hinton,
Yes, ma'am.
would you like to add anything from your perspective?
Yes, I've been in the staff for almost 40 years, and so I've seen a lot and testified before the North Carolina Utilities Commission well over 30 times. For a host of finance and investment and planning and electric utility industry and a host of things. Mr. Fisher and the Sabre team testified and helped the commission with a solid financing order to start the process. Now we had to implement, issue the bond, do the structuring, marketing, pricing. A director came to me and asked me, well, I know you weren't intrinsically involved in his testimony, but would you take over now? My heart sunk. I was asked to do something I wasn't really prepared to do. I took that role and I tried to do the best I could as consumer advocates. That's what the public staff is, as your ORS is the same. And but I didn't have the background, and it became so evident that I didn't have the background that the Sabre team offered. And I wished I could have pulled them out of my pocket on numerous times when I was a member of the BAT team. I can't go into the details of the BAT conversation because obviously they're confidential, but I can say this. You can look at my letter. It's not a certification letter because I wouldn't let my lawyer call it that. It's what's called a letter of, I'll say, support. I filed it on November 18th, 2021 for the public staff. I was the face. I wrote that letter. I used the words, the public staff believes that the process will likely result in the lowest storm recovery charges. Now, trust me, I struggled with that sentence. I struggled with will likely. I mean, I could have said probably, but I said will likely. I did not clarify what will likely really meant. I said will likely. The point was, I was always in the BAT team feeling inadequate. Now, you all have made decisions over the past years of the commission, just like North Carolina, just as I would testify and make recommendations. There's a level of confidence. That's a word we've used a lot today. You need a high level of confidence to ensure the consumer is well served. I came to the conclusion, and in association with Sabre partners ever since, that they are the team you want on your side, bar none. They have no conflicts. I think that's an important thing that Joe has talked about. And I think the essence of their knowledge. I mean, these people are the treasury. And when I was first with the staff, one of these men I used to read about in Merrill Lynch Bond Roundup. And I go, wow. And as a young analyst, when I was only 25 at that time, I was amazed of their knowledge of the bond market. Because you know the bond market is different than equities. We can all be an equity analyst, but we can't be a bond analyst overnight. But they had that knowledge, and they bring that to the table today. So I want to urge you, for that level of confidence that I lacked, I urge you to hire this team as your advisor.
I know if you'd like to talk to our other people on the bench, Brian Maher from Exxon in terms of.
Yeah, I could say, this is Brian. Can you hear me? I could say a few words. I've been retired from Exxon for quite a few years now. I spent 35 years in finance and done billions of dollars of financing and complex financial transactions. And the reason I decided to sign on as a financial advisor for some of these transactions with Joe is because he did some really good work for Exxon, even when he was a banker. He was willing to stand up to his bosses who just wanted to get a deal done and say, no, wait, the client doesn't really want that, doesn't need that. And you don't always get that from bankers. So he has a level of integrity that you wouldn't normally have found in the banking institutions. And that's why he doesn't do it anymore. So I think that the key thing, though, is that he's a tireless worker. And I mean, you can hardly believe how much he cares about the ratepayer. I mean, we've been hearing this for 20 years now, and it's absolutely true. He's as interested in the ratepayer as the commission is, and that's quite a bit. And and look at the other parties in the transaction. I mean, Duke's a great company, but are they really interested in the ratepayers' best interests in this transaction, or do they want to get their money and move on to something else? Probably both, but they're split because they don't have the same need to satisfy the ratepayers that you and Joe Fischera would have. And then you look at the investment bankers, the underwriters, and it's way worse. Duke would be a hero compared to them. I mean, they want to get as many transactions done in as much of a cookie cutter way as they possibly can. And I saw this at Exxon. I mean, they'd be coming in and offering me transactions that had nothing to do with what Exxon wanted or needed. And so when they see this transaction, you've got to take into consideration that these investment bankers have investor clients and they have issuing clients. And they're trying to balance to serve both of them. So they would like their investor clients to get good rates, and then they also would like their issuing clients to, get good rates on the downside, offer lower interest costs. But, you can't exactly have it both ways. And I think you will see that the trend, and unfortunately, that what's been happening to securitization bonds has not been our friend recently. There are ways to use techniques and keep pressure on the bankers. There are ways to bring down the spreads over treasuries, and Sabre has been able to do that in the past, and they can still do it. And some of them are technical. Some of them you get into the offering day, and you sit there next to the bankers, and when they proudly say that we're 4 times oversubscribed, then you say, okay, well, now I guess the rate we're offering is too high. Let's go back and get 2 times oversubscribed and see how well the ratepayer can do. That's one thing. The other thing is and this is the last thing I'll say, in the actual offering material, you would like it as plain English as possible so it doesn't look very esoteric, because it really isn't all that esoteric. And you also want to make sure that you're not afraid of something like the SEC staff when they make a proclamation. I mean, when we were at Exxon, we would submit what we believed was right, expecting the SEC staff would come back to us and say, well, we don't necessarily agree. That's what they're supposed to do, because that's why they're the SEC staff, right? But that doesn't mean you take everything they say and cave into it. And that's exactly what's been happening lately. And that's why these governors who really do want to do well for the ratepayers, these governors are fighting to get asset-backed securities unrelated from securitizations and get securitizations back where they belong, closer to AAA corporates, because these are excellent high-class securities with the state guarantee and the commitments. This is a fantastic security. And so this is my last thing. I think we all have to work, and you will be doing that as hard as possible to make sure your ratepayer gets the best possible deal.
Thank you. I appreciate the answers, gentlemen.